creativity didn't appear in English until 1859, defined by the Online Etymology Dictionary as, quote, the character or faculty of being creative. Well, that wasn't very helpful. According to the Etymology Dictionary, it's derived from the adjective creative. Creative appeared in the 1670s and is defined as having the quality or function of creating, but there's that pesky word within the definition again. So creativity must be a difficult thing to define, much less achieve or capture. The entry tells us Wordsworth likened it to being imaginative, which is closer to something I find more insightful. And since we're defining things and ideas by actions they represent, we'll look at the verb create. So create is to bring into being, to make, to bring forth. But from what? Or from whence? What place, source, or cause? In his TED Talk on the subject of creativity, speaking on the subject of whether to even proceed through a creative block, Sting said, "Maybe I've given away enough of myself." Except his voice was much cooler when he said it. As a memoirist, this in particular struck me. And how much is enough? Who gets to decide? Sting ultimately decided to continue this process of creating, of bringing forth. And in his talk, he goes on to say, he puts himself in other people's shoes and, quote, they say, write what you know, but I couldn't write about myself anymore. So he started writing about other people. He went back home to, quote, find his missing muse and, quote, honor the community he'd come from and tell their stories. Torrent came through, he says. As an essayist, this was a highlight for me as well. Sting's reference, though, does set my antenna on end, so to speak, because we have to discern whose story is really being told, and we have to be careful about understanding who ought to tell it and how. That isn't such a black and white discussion, and in fact, it only expands the proverbial gray area of creating, especially in writing. Dame Gillian Lynn, as mentioned in Sir Ken Robinson's talk and also in the NPR Radio Hour interview, was misunderstood as a child, and one could argue there may have been a lack of appreciation of deviation, of imperfection, or maybe even a misguided sense of what perfect means in the pedagogy of Gillian Lynn. Sir Ken says in the interview, all the great teachers I've met are people who can inspire interest and passion and curiosity and light up people's imagination with the interests they themselves have with a particular discipline or field of work. What drives them is a passion and appetite for the work, but what facilitates it is an increase in control over the materials and ideas, Sir Ken says in his NPR interview. For me, in the parliament of my identity, this spoke to my professorial side. I come alive in the classroom and in discussion with my students when I see them in discussion with each other. Creativity is contagious, and the mechanisms by which it's spread is in the expression of passion, and passion hardly comes out perfect in the first draft. And Sir Ken reminds us, we may not see this future, but they will, they being students, and our job is to help them make something of it. This is one of the many reasons I tell and consume stories. This is why I'm tempted at every turn to coax meaning out of something, to see order or structure, even where there might not be any. Guy Raz, the NPR journalist who conducted the interview, said, everyone has some degree of creativity. And Raz brings us Elizabeth Gilbert's words, everybody's invited. Saying creative people is redundant. That's the definition of passion. You don't have a choice whether to follow it. Your curiosity may lead you to passion. Spend your life in pursuit of the things that made you feel curious. If you get to do that, that's a wonderful way to have spent your time here.